Welcome to UC Today. My name is David Dungay. I'm here today with Mark Brigman from Partnernomics. Hi Mark, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Today we're going to be talking about a specialist subject, partnering. I'm a channel person. Mark, I know you're a channel person. Partnerships in channel, in business generally, actually, incredibly important to get that right. So let's get into a few things now. But Mark, do you want to give us a bit of a rundown of yourself and Partnernomics, the business?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, Dave. I guess the ways that I kind of share the story is I started my career, just got really lucky. Great company, great industry. I started my career in the late '90s at Sprint. When Sprint was about ready to really be transformed, like all other telecommunications companies, I quickly found this world of partnering. But as I continued to build my career, I was at Sprint for 13 years before I moved on. But in those 13 years, I was constantly asking my directors, my bosses, my VPs of, hey, how come I can't get this great training to understand kind of the art and science of partnering? What do I need to do to educate myself on what it means to be great at my job? And they all said the same thing. It's don't worry about it, Mark. It's trial and error. You'll end up getting it figured out. And so I knew there had to be a better way. And so, in a parallel path, I jumped into a college research program, and for 7 years of that program, and then ever since, I've essentially built with our team a toolbox, a toolkit of how to do this partnering thing. So we launched Partnernomics 6 years ago, and we work with organizations across the world to help them make strategic partnering become a core competency.
Wow, so you're really solving quite a niche problem, but although it applies to a wide variety of businesses, not just sort of channel telecoms or IT businesses, but globally across all kinds of markets, which is great. But tell us, why is partnering such a problem today?
Partnering is complex. It's the role itself. And whenever you think about partnering professionals, all the different people in the cross-functional leadership that we need to engage in, right? Everything from marketing to sales folks to engineering to product to pricing to legal to fulfillment to you name it, right? We're working with all these different organizations, and it really takes somebody with a wide skill set. But then even on top of that, what compounds it is, partnering should be used as a tool to execute an organization's growth strategy, all right, or their corporate development strategy. And I guess the reason it's so challenging is because there's so many areas for it to go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned skill sets there. You had that problem back in your early days, asking your managers, how do we do this better? Where's the training? What are the skill sets? Who is the person in these organizations fronting these partnerships, and what kind of skills really do they need?
So I think the first thing is to truly be and think strategic. I mean, we teach there's three ways that all organizations grow. There's organic, right, where we're going to kind of build it ourselves, and that's the default approach. The second is acquisition. We're going to get the checkbook out, and we're going to buy our way to growth. Or the third way is through partnering. And, people that are in partnering roles need to really have a strategic mindset to understand how to put puzzles together to help the business grow, but do it in a way that's very methodical and very efficient. Sometimes the answer is within your doors to do it organically. Sometimes it's through acquisition, but partnering just opens up so many doors where we can leverage the knowledge, capabilities, assets, those resources of other organizations. But then it starts to come down to people, and that's when it gets messy. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. So it's not just the strategy, but then it's the relational piece of dealing with other human beings, and that's where it gets pretty dynamic. It gets kind of messy, but really that's where the power comes as well.
Yeah. Are you seeing people in organizations now with a specific, I'm a partnership specialist type role? Are you seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was LinkedIn just, I will say a year to 18 months ago, they put out a statistic that said that over the next, or over the past 5 years, within the past 5 years, there's been a 360% increase in the quantity of partnership manager titles or job roles that have opened up in the world's economy. And so, there's no shortage of statistics that show that partnering is increasing. CEOs, business leaders are wanting to leverage the power of partnership. Plus, just all the new technologies that's coming into the world economy, the globalization of the economy, it's becoming so complex, but there's so many opportunities to weave in and pull in new technologies, new capabilities, right? Making that easy button bigger for our clients to make better, more holistic solutions. It's you it's like you have to jump into the game if you want to effectively compete.
Yeah, and in terms of partnerships, we can see partnerships at all different kinds of levels in the business. In channel, between channel partners and suppliers, and then further up that chain as well. Are all I guess partnerships born equally? What is that? Can we approach this with a one size fits all?
Yeah, great question. The answer is absolutely no. Just like all of our customers are not created equal, uh, not all of our partners are created equal. And we should have a very specific plan of what we're trying to do with partnerships. I mean, there's organizations today are using partnerships in so many different ways that they kind of need to be managed in those certain lanes. So what do I mean? Well, we say that partnerships are on a continuum, and one side is where partnerships are very kind of transactional in nature, and they're very predictive. They're very stable, right? We have solid, let's say like a referral partnering agreement. We understand who our ideal referral partner is. We have a solid referral partnering agreement. It's easy for everybody to understand what they're signing up for and then to manage that going forward. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think there's more opportunities today to truly engage in what we call strategic partnerships. And it's a common misused and overused term, but specifically, strategic partnerships always include some level of innovation. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, we do this innovation thing because it creates differentiation, which can give us an advantage. But by definition, there isn't a recipe. We're going to have to build this ship as we sail it, as we like to say. And so in those highly strategic, highly innovation driven partnerships, there's more opportunity for conflict. There's more opportunities for things to go wrong because there's not a script to follow. But by definition, that's the only way that we can create this competitive advantage is by doing something different and unique and better than what is being offered in the market today.
Yeah, I mean, are organisations, getting this wrong quite a lot? Where are you seeing people get this, I guess, right, and where are you seeing people get this idea of partnerships wrong?
Unfortunately, I would say most organizations get it wrong. And, as we had mentioned, it's because there's so many different ways and places to get it wrong. And we have, to the point that you were making earlier, any company can partner. Whether you are an entrepreneur of one or you are a company of hundreds of thousands, it's company size agnostic, it's industry agnostic. Everyone can benefit by leveraging the power of partnership. But where it gets really dangerous is when people and business leaders say, okay, well, organic, that means I've got to build it. I don't really have the money for that. Number two, acquisition, get out the checkbook. I don't have the money for that. So that only leaves one way, partnering. Let's do this partnering thing to grow. But they don't really think it through, and they don't have a specific plan, a specific strategy that they're executing against. I mean, they're just kind of winging it and essentially doing this pivot thing almost by the day, just based upon who they run into and what potential partners are saying. But what we like to teach and share is be very methodical about it. Yes, partnering can be a great accelerator and get you to success faster than organic or even more better than acquisition, more cost effective. But it can also be very costly, and it can sink companies if you do it wrong, because there is a lot of time. Can be a lot of financial investment that goes into it. So there's absolutely a cost to doing it wrong.
Yeah, I mean that long term outlook, I think, is especially important. We were talking off camera before, and yeah, how many times have we seen businesses come into a market with a sort of a partnership mentality, only to leave that space, in a short space of time because they haven't given it, longer than 3 or 6 months. Why do we keep seeing? Why do businesses keep going down this road, this sort of short termism, when it comes to partnerships?
Yeah, well, a couple of things that pop into my mind, David, is one of those. I think whenever we look back to a decade or 2 decades ago, the channel kind of meant sales partnerships. And it almost kind of stayed in that sales lane. But today, with there being so many different opportunities to partner, we can also see marketing and co-branding partnerships come out of that they don't have a direct line to revenue. It's more of an indirect line to revenue. We also see technology partnerships and relationships coming in where two companies are going to work together to develop a new technology for this single product, this single solution that may or may not then be sold through the channel. So even the types of partnerships in channel is growing and expanding and getting wider. But one of the things in general I'll say is a lot of times whenever companies will stand up a channel program for the first time, they say, okay, well, we're doing this to generate revenue. And we already have this person called a chief revenue officer or, a chief sales officer that's managing that lane. So let's put this new team or this new function over in their court. Sometimes that makes sense. A lot of times it doesn't. It just depends on the specifics of what the intended outcomes are for that partnership. But to your point, and gosh, I've had this conversation, it feels like hundreds of times over the past couple years, but most partnerships, most partnership organizations that are being stood up, these partnership teams and programs, it takes at least 12 months, sometimes even 24 months before the company sees a positive return on investment for all the investments that they're making in the people, in the processes, in the tools, in the training, in the software management systems, in the marketing collateral, all of the stuff that goes into standing up a program. So, my advice to executives that are thinking about getting into this partnering lane for the very first time is my advice is to really think it through and to understand exactly what they're getting into. And, to the point that we're making here, understand that it's not a sales team. You're not going to be able to give them a monthly quota and have them spun up making a positive return in just a quarter or two on average. If you do, it's a unicorn.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. If you're going to do it, you've got to commit, and you've got to commit for the long term. So, I mean, for those, we get a lot of channel, viewers on UC today. For those sort of channel businesses that are sitting here watching us today, thinking about perhaps their next partnership, their next strategic partnership, as quite often comes from sort of the business owner. What should they be thinking about before entering this partnership? For the long term.
Yeah. I love Covey's approach. Begin with the end in mind. Go into it knowing exactly, or at least having a solid idea of what you want to get out of it. But what I'll tell you is the big mistake that's made is where these executives or even these partnering professionals sometimes they see a resource that they need. Right? I need access to this technology. I need access to this customer base. I need access into you name it. And they get fixated on that resource that they want that they don't have today, and that's what they go after. But they totally neglect the other 50+% of partnership success, which is the alignment, kind of the softer stuff. who is this company? What's their culture? Do we speak a common language? Do our strategies naturally align with each other? Will we be able to communicate effectively? Um, all of those pieces kind of building up to just the relational side to get commitment and to really build a strong and deep partnership. It's not about the resource, or it's not just about the resource. That's only 50% at best of the success equation.
Yeah. Okay. So looking forwards now, Mark. Mutual colleague of ours, Jay McBain. He's been quite vocal about some of the big changes happening in the channel at the moment. What does partnering look like in the future? Where are we heading with this sort of subset of skills, if you like?
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with Jay more. There was a study that came out from KPMG about 18 months ago where they asked hundreds of different CEOs, what is your dominant growth strategy over the next 5 years? Right? It could be organic, it could be acquisition, it could be outsourcing, it could be all of these different forms and flavors. And the number one strategy for growth, which it even surprised me, even as a partnering guy, but the number one strategy for growth at 38% was partnering. These third-party partnerships. And what was really interesting and telling about that 38% as being a dominant strategy is that number, that percentage had increased 15% from just the previous year.
Wow.
So I think that really goes to show that the CEOs and these executives see the power and the potential of partnering, but like anything else, it only works if we do it right. And so there's no doubt that going into the future, partnering is going to be the lead. It's going to be how we get. It's going to be how we get connected with potential partners. It's going to be how we get connected with potential customers. It's how we distribute. It's no longer the big, 900-pound gorillas that's bringing in opportunities and letting you have a small seat at the door. A lot of times, it's actually the smaller companies. I think just because of technology where it is now, you can have small 50, 100 person organizations, and they look like, and they compete like multi-billion-dollar companies today, now more than ever before. And so partnering, just because our jobs, right, it's no longer about providing a service or providing a product. It's about providing that holistic solution. And I really believe that it's the companies, it's the companies that can bring together a solution that makes that easy button as big as possible. Those are the ones that win. And it's no longer the gigantic 50 or 100,000 employee companies. Sometimes it's being put together by smaller, nimble, very innovative organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I think, Mark, that's a great place to end today's discussion. For our audience watching, you spend a lot of time online. But where can they come and find you to find out a little bit more about this science of partnering?
Yeah, so our website is partnernomics.com, or I'd love to connect with different folks on LinkedIn. It'd be great to have a connection for you, with them there. But David, really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and chat with you about partnering, something that we're really passionate about.
Well, it's been great to have you. So, to my audience, thank you so much for watching. You've been watching UC Today with me, David Dungay. If you like today's discussion, please don't forget to give us a like or a share on social media. It's always appreciated. That's all for me. I'll see you next time.